It all sounded really weird and really gay. Right? Yeah, I gotta turn my thoughts to the country.
We're usually not so professional on this show.
Yeah. Even though my vibration is like super loud, it's still going. I call that a Peter impression.
All right, so this is a special edition of Shoot the Shit.
Shoot the shit.
Funny.
That's what you call it.
That's the name of our show. All right, so we have a special guest today. He's a published author, a Gnostic, Mr. William Lee. I'll let him talk about himself a little bit.
Thank you for having me on. Big fan of the podcast, excuse me. And it's just great to be here.
All right.
So I guess you want to know a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
And how I got started.
Yeah.
My question.
How did William Lee get started?
Yes, acquiring minds would like to know.
Well, it started around 2011, 2012. And I started to get these weird downloads. And by downloads, I mean, every time I would go to sleep, I would just instantaneously be seemingly teleported to different dimensions, I guess you would call them, or alternate reality phases. And when I would wake up, what I experienced had a direct correlation to like what was going on in my life. Like it would revolve around the girl I was with at the time, what I was going through, my emotional state. I've always been spiritual. Well, I've always been spiritual. You know, I had the freedom when I was younger to experiment. I wasn't held captive to one religion when I was younger. My parents gave me the opportunity to test the waters, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. So I studied a little bit of Christianity, Islam, Buddhism slightly when I was younger. But what was interesting was after I started getting these downloads, which happened around the year of 2012, it seemed like I advanced, really, like my knowledge and my understanding really advanced. I was the first Black or African American to lead advanced Bible study at North Springfield Baptist Church in Springfield, Tennessee. That was pretty deep. At the same time, I was studying Gnosticism, and there was something about Gnosticism that always drew me in.
What is Gnosticism?
Gnosticism is, and that's a good question. Gnosticism it's Latin for knowledge. It comes from the root word gnosis, which is Latin for knowledge, and it was the knowledge that it was the secret knowledge, the occult knowledge, and by occult I don't mean
not like witchcraft.
It can get very spooky when you talk about the occult.
Yeah.
But basically, it was just the knowledge that wasn't readily available to the initiate or the novice.
Right.
Information that you had to actually get initiated into the mystery system, which is basically just like a school that taught you all the things that really went on behind the scenes, why things worked the way they worked.
So what is the difference between Gnosticism and Christianity?
The difference is Gnosticism is underground.
Right.
Gnosticism deals with truth no matter how harsh it might seem to be. It deals with the truth behind the illusion, quote unquote.
And what are the truths?
How much time you got? but let me go into the backstory of Gnosticism,
okay,
right? And how it got started, okay?
Right.
Give your listeners a little backdrop on it, okay?
Right.
Gnosticism was always there in the beginning. Many people might know the story of Adam, Eve, and the serpent when the serpent tempted Eve initially in the garden. And the basic exoteric story goes, man and woman were put into the garden to tend and keep it. A serpent came up to Eve, I'm paraphrasing, of course, and tempted Eve to eat off of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And this was considered to be an attempt by the serpent to Eve. She ate of the fruit and then gave it to Adam, and he ate of the fruit, and then their eyes were open. But the backstory is that the serpent wasn't a literal snake. The serpent, in occult philosophy, the serpent was Sophia, which is the divine feminine, who initiated Eve through the knowledge of good and evil. And so Eve, when she ate the fruit, quote unquote, she became enlightened. And then she was the first initiate into the mystery schools. And then she initiated her husband, Adam. And then they actually, by eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, they became enlightened. They became as gods. And then they were subsequently cut off from the tree of life. Because if they would have ate off the tree of life, they would have been superior.
There's this,
and then, but then it goes into, and then the story is passed down. That was the origins of what we now know, the scripts that we have now. But Gnosticism always existed. It just was underground, and it was Atlantean. Mm-hmm. There was a deity named Thoth,
right,
and he was considered the god of wisdom in ancient Atlantis. He was a pre-Diluvian god, and then it went from there into Egypt. And in Egypt during the dynastic period, which is when Egypt was unionized, mm-hmm. if you will, the main deity that was worshipped was the divine feminine, was the mother, the divine mother, which is known as Virgo or Isis or Cybele, the Black Madonna, etc., etc.
I have a question, though. Because I'm curious about this. Because you know how they say that us as black people are the descendants of Eve, or the children of Eve, right? Is that related?
It depends on how it's said and how you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Are we descendants of Eve? It depends on how you look at it.
Okay.
It depends on who's telling the story and what they're intending to mean. But yes, we are children of Eve. You know, Eve is our mother, you know, which Eve is also symbolic of Sophia.
Right.
And this gets into the whole Gnostic myth. And when I say Gnostic myth, I'm not saying something that's not true, but oftentimes truth was told in story.
Right.
Okay. It was told as a metaphor or a parable. Okay. Somewhat to camouflage the truth from either your enemies or novices. But yeah, it was always told in mythical stories.
Right. So what do you say the role of Gnosticism is in the world today?
The role of Gnosticism is awakening the people, letting the people know, because there are a lot of people that don't realize that what they believe in is something that was put on them by Satan himself.
Right.
And that's the real core issue of it all, is that Gnosticism teaches the truth about who is really God,
right,
and who is really not.
Right.
Okay. And in ancient times, dating back to Egypt, you had a lot of deities like Isis, Osiris, mm-hmm. Heru. Some people even
Ra.
Yeah. You know, Amun Ra. And the Gnosticism went from Egypt, and then when Egypt started to go in the decline, mm-hmm. then the Greeks came into Egypt, and they pretty much looted the ancient the papyrus scrolls, mm-hmm. and took that to Greece. And then Greece, they had the knowledge of ancient Egypt, which is a lot of Gnostic information, and that's where your men like Plato and Aristotle got their knowledge from the Library of Alexandria, from the manuscripts that were originally in the Library of Alexandria, that was in Egypt along the Mediterranean. That's where that's where the big library was, where they kept all the Gnostic information. But then they had it, and then eventually Rome conquered Greece, and then Rome got the knowledge from Greece, from ancient Greece, which subsequently used that, along with power and domination, to establish Christianity.
You know, I think that
all this is new to me.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's always, the information's always been there, but there's been a deliberate attempt to try to hide it from the demiurge, and we can even talk about that if you want to or not.
See, now that's the thing is that we talk about people who are quote unquote woke, or
yes, I've heard that term a
right,
lot.
or we want to talk about Gnosticism. People will blanketly say that is, oh, you're an atheist. Are you an atheist?
Right.
No, the question, I'm not an atheist, and I don't worship the devil either,
No.
because a lot of people think
Yeah.
that too. I'm not an atheist. I just recognize that there's been a big game that's been there's been game that's been ran on us for thousands of years. Okay, and in Africa traditionally we worship the divine feminine naturally.
Right.
You know, we even refer to the earth as, you know, Mother Earth,
Yeah.
Mother Nature, Gaia. These are all feminine attributes of a deity, you know. And then somewhere along the way, it got switched from a feminine divinity to a masculine divinity, which is, according to Gnosticism, the problem. The problem is the masculine deity called the demiurge, or Aldabaoth. And Aldabaoth is an entity that is not a benevolent entity, but a malevolent entity. The one that is directly responsible for the creation of us, the creation of this matrix, but is not the true divine. See, that's where we get it misconstrued, is that we're worshiping lower deities instead of worshiping the true divine feminine, which is why we continually find ourselves in, you know, trauma, going through trauma. Our lives don't pan out to what we thought they should. A lot of different things go into it, but basically you're dealing with entities that want to get you into a state of heightened fear and worry, so that they can use that to feed off that while keeping you in a perpetual state of purgatory or suspended animation, just going through life, getting a job, going to school. You know, you do all the seemingly right things, start a family, buy a nice home, a car, and then you might lose your job, or you know, you get a divorce, your wife divorces you, you're living. I mean, all these things can happen, and then a lot of people wonder why is this happening? You know, I tried my best to be a good person, and then this happens. Well, have you ever noticed that in life, there's never a long period of sustained peace? It's always fighting, wars. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's because you're dealing with entities that feed off of that negative energy, and they want to keep you in a state of fear and paranoia, so they can feed off of your energy. And this is what we're talking about in Gnosticism, is that you have a lot of deities that don't really care about what you're really going through,
right?
But that want to get you in a state of fear so that they can feed off of your energy and incite you to do negative things so they can feed off that, when the divine feminine is just calling us to come back to the truth.
So do you believe in the third eye theory as well?
The third eye?
Yes.
Yeah, the third eye is, I'm assuming, what you call the pineal gland?
Yeah.
Yeah, the pineal gland is actually, the pineal and the...
well, it's a physical thing.
Yeah.
You physically have that.
Yeah, it's a physical thing. The pineal is a physical thing. And then the pituitary gland is also connected to the pineal gland, which regulates the secretion of melanin,
right,
or melatonin, depending upon who you ask, which is the gateway. The melanin is that black substance, the black oil, the crystals.
Right. That I've heard that the Caucasian people are trying to get from us.
Everybody wants the black power.
Well, melatonin, they started isolating melatonin back in 1994. Okay, so melatonin, the pills that you can get for sleep, they started isolating those molecules back in 1994. So in 1994, you noticed that melatonin came on the market to where you can actually go to a store and actually buy melatonin.
It's funny.
Which there was a big controversy in that, where were they getting this melatonin from?
Right, because we make our own melatonin, right, so to speak. Right?
Can I just add this? I was born in 1994, so when you said that, it just like blew my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been there is and they have also melanin. They hold melanin conferences every so often, just talking about melanin, what it is, the study of it, new research.
How do we get our
study
hands
doing
on
it. I don't know. I'm never invited. So I'm never invited to these conferences. So I'm not privy to that information. But I do know they do have melanin conferences every so often to talk about the properties of melanin, because nobody really knows. They can label, they can put a label on it, but nobody really knows.
Nobody really knows what it
the
is.
consistency of it or how deep to go.
Yeah.
But melanin is multidimensional. You know, that's how you access the gate. That's how you go through the pineal gland is the gateway to
Right.
the underworld, which is also the world of Osiris.
Well, since we were talking about the world and everything, let's talk about the Matrix.
Like the movie?
No, that's the movie.
Yeah, I had to say it.
yeah. The Matrix is a world which is an illusion that's been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. It's everything that's physical, everything that you see, feel. Well, everything is just feeling.
Like
all your senses can be
simulation.
tied into just one sense, which is feel.
Like a simulation, right?
Yeah, a simulation meaning artificial. It was designed, and
Right.
this simulation was designed by an entity named called the Demiurge. Okay, and Demiurge just means ruler, or it has the connotation of a political authority, but someone that is in rulership, which is an entity commonly known as Yahweh or Adalabrav, Aldabath, Jehovah, etc., etc.
God.
Or God, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and what basically what happened was Sophia. This is the Gnostic myth, going into the Gnostic myth. Sophia was the divine feminine, the high divine feminine, and she gave birth through a virgin birth. She gave birth to an entity named that we call the Demiurge or Yahweh.
Mhm.
Now, this birth, something went wrong. It was an unnatural birth, and something went wrong, and this entity had an identity complex, an ego. He's very egotistical. He believed that he was the only God. He believed that he was supreme, and that there was no gods but him. And consequently, he became a jealous God, a vengeful God.
Right.
So he created mankind to be ignorant and obedient to his will, follow his
Subservient to
laws,
him.
and subservient to him.
Right.
Okay. Sophia, the divine feminine, is what put the spark, the soul, SOL, within man. So he became jealous of that. And even in the Nag Hammadi library, it talks about, I think it's in the Gospel of Philip, it talks about how he was expected to bow down and worship man, but instead he wanted man to bow down and worship him. So he created his own reality in which he could be worshipped. And he created other entities called archons to lord over. That's why you hear the gods plural in the Bible when it
And
talks
it's
about
funny,
the gods.
as you speak about it, I could really hear the relation to the Bible.
Yeah, it's the Bible is in relation to the Bible. The Bible has truth in it. It just has to be decoded. Like when it talks about the Tower of Babel, for example, right? It's a common story that we've heard before. When the sons of men came together on one accord, and anything they united to do, they accomplished, and they were on one accord. And then the gods came down and confounded their language and spread them out, right?
Okay,
Yeah.
Well, this was because humanity has always had the capacity to rise to the level of godship, if you will.
Right.
But this simulation, getting back to what is the Matrix, has always been reset once that happened. Once humanity got to a state to where they were really close to unifying across the board and ushering this age of peace, then the simulation was always reset. Because what would happen at that point, if humanity was to become united, would be this period of peace, and then you wouldn't be able to feed off negative energy and emotion, and then you basically starve. So they had to keep this constant and perpetual state of fear and worry and anxiety within the people.
But if you do like being woke, is that like an ability where you could actually break that cycle, or is there like a way you could break out of that?
That's a good question, and
But
it's more of an individual thing.
I think I got an answer for that too. I got an answer for that because like the idea is that you can never truly experience consciousness outside of the matrix, right?
Well, consciousness only exists outside of the matrix.
Right, but we can't fathom it in a way like the way that we experience. I see you. I can touch this table. I can do like the way that we fathom this our surroundings here. We can't fathom outside of it. If we could, then like.
See, I have a belief that there's a possibility, that somebody out there might have, fathomed it or even traveled to that kind of destination in some kind of way. Because there's just so many of us. Who's to say that somebody out there already has done that?
Yeah, you have to understand that we're still connected.
Yeah.
To the divine,
right?
To the divine feminine, we're still connected. It's just that the matrix, this simulation, has blinded us through light, and this is where it gets kind of confusing. Mm-hmm. Is that when you talk about good and evil, light and dark, it's really easy to deceive people. You can deceive people, meaning you can tell this person, "Oh, this is good," and that's bad. But really, that's bad and this is good. You can always flip it.
Yeah.
And that's how we're deceived a lot because consciousness exists outside of the matrix. The matrix isn't real. Right. That spark that we have within us, the divine spark, is real, and we can connect to it, like you were saying, Devani, about the pineal gland. That's the gateway. That's the gateway to the divine, the triple black darkness of the womb, where we all come from.
So, can we ever experience true consciousness?
Yeah, we're conscious by nature, mm-hmm. by having a spiritual nature. It's just that this consciousness has been overwritten to some degree,
right.
by an illusion. We've had this malware, this program that's overlaid our consciousness and taught us that, living a basic life, getting a job, having children, that's what it means to be conscious. But it's not.
Right.
Being conscious has nothing to do with that. Being conscious means connecting to where you came from in the beginning, which is the divine, and going back there.
Right.
But since we are put in a perpetual state of reincarnation, we're physically trapped.
See, even as you were saying that, it sounded so systematic. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, he knows what he's doing. He's been doing this a long time. It's easy to really trick people. That's why the Gnostics were killed. They were murdered. They were They were always underground because they were considered heretics, and they constantly had to guard the information because people wanted to murder them because of the doctrine and because of power. Rome had power back then, and their formal religion was Christianity. So what they would do is they would take the papyruses of ancient Egypt and Atlantis and Lemuria and Greece, and they would put them together, and they made this super religion with which even if you study the scriptures, you can see pieces of Gnosticism in it. Mm-hmm. But the key parts of how we can transcend this matrix, how we can wake up, that's hidden. Because they don't want the people to know that. Because they don't want the people to know. They want the people to go to work, get a job, and be the cog in the machine.
Right.
And keep the machine going. They don't want you to know. They don't want you to wake up and be conscious of what you're doing and what's going on around you. They don't want you to know why they're spraying chemtrails in the air, why they're polluting the water.
Yeah. See, you were saying?
Well, okay. Well, that also, that almost sounds like you're going on a rant about, like, the government, almost like how they do, they do shady stuff.
Well, yeah, the government is just an extension. It's just an arm of the demiurge.
Right.
And why do I say that? Well, if you look at, I'm not talking about the president, because the president is just pretty much a face. But when you look at who runs the government, whether you call it a shadow government or the deep state, etc.,
or the Illuminati,
the Illuminati,
right? The
man. When you look at these entities, they're in direct. These agencies are in direct contact with these archons. if you notice, if you study, you'll find out that they do practice blood sacrifice rituals. They worship deities that really keep them in power, and that is because these archons are less than physical, so they need that extension into the matrix, into this reality through a surrogate, which is humanity.
Right.
And the humans that they pick are humans that are willing to sell themselves out, sell their soul to really do these
The bidding.
the bidding, which is keep the people in a constant state of unrest, excite violence, spread violence all across the world. They do that for these entities, so these entities can continue to feed off. They call it loosh.
Right.
Loosh is a low vibratory energy that your body secretes through DNA that they feed. Just like how we feed off, if you eat meat, how you feed off cows and chickens.
Right,
we use that as energy. Right? We feed off lower animals and harness the energy that they have, and we use that energy. Same way these higher entities feed off of us and use our energy to propel themselves. It's just we're just in the order of the food chain. We're just in.
So we're not at the top of the food chain.
No, of course not. No.
You're gonna say something?
I was saying but the purpose of them feeding off of us is like a survival thing, right?
Yeah, it's not really personal.
Yeah.
It's more of survival, which is natural.
I mean, you don't take it like you don't have a grudge against a cow when you eat a hamburger.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you're right. Unless I knew that particular cow.
Unless you
and
knew
I
that
just
cow.
remembered that cow
Particularly.
from
In the
somewhere.
same way, they feed off of us. They feed off of our energy that we emit.
okay. So we're secreting energy. Well, I mean, I think like everybody knows that. Everybody always knew about like how we all have like that energy. That what is it? Your energy. How many feet is it away from you? Like
What, like 5, 10 feet?
5, 10 feet. Your aura is like your aura field
Yeah.
is like 5, 10 feet away from you.
Yeah.
You can always tell when somebody enters a room, even if you have your eyes closed or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have to tell you the truth. I could sense it sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Aura, because this is so strong. You know, because I've had my moments where I could truly like sense things, or my senses are heightened to the point where I could hear really well, or I could like really sense things from different people or different auras. You know? What
Yeah,
I'm saying?
and what's really weird, depending upon how you look at it, you might consider it scary or not, whatever. But is that they can also manipulate you through mind control, and they can use mind control. Have you ever been in a state to where something just pissed you off, made you mad, and you just got furious, and you couldn't calm yourself down, or you didn't know exactly why you got mad, but or something small just pissed you off and you just went off the deep end.
Yeah,
Countless times.
like Devani's hair.
Yeah.
They can control that.
Yeah.
They can control.
Yeah,
They can control frequencies to get you or to excite you to react that way, to feed off of your negative energy.
Right.
So we're also talking about mind control. So it's important, just for nothing else, just to know that you can be controlled and to develop systems to really combat your mind from being hijacked by these entities. Because even in Christianity, they'll readily believe in demons and evil spirits. But the moment you start talking about how these spirits can manipulate you, then all of a sudden, no, that's too far. That's going too far. But wait a minute, you just believed in demonic spirits and evil entities before, but when I start talking about how they can directly affect your psyche,
Right.
then all of a sudden I'm going too far.
It's like an invisible line. You know,
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
you're crossing.
People like to blame the devil and Satan and demons for stuff, but they don't want to. When you start talking about how they use the strategies that they use,
Yeah.
Right,
to
really go
manipulate
into
people,
detail,
then
really
I'm going too
investigate.
far. Yeah,
Right.
then I'm going too far.
They're trying to stop you from investigating it and actually finding the truth.
They're trying to keep you
Yeah.
from the truth.
Yeah, the truth is something that has to be taught, and even if you teach it, there's no guarantee that people are going to be receptive to it, because oftentimes the truth go against what's commonly accepted.
You're right.
So because
What
people don't
you
want to know
grew
that,
up
people want to
knowing.
go out and shop for Black Friday and hang out, and they don't want to face. A lot of times they don't want to face real life situations.
Right.
Black Friday sales going on today. be
Just
sure to
throwing
go
that
out and
out
shop.
Throwing that out there.
Hey man, we got to pay the bills up here.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book in the first place, was to really get this knowledge out there. And it's not a popular topic.
No,
People don't, because people always want the silver lining. They always want,
yeah, they want everybody wants the rainbow sunshine story that like, oh, we're all gonna be okay, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
but when you start talking about mind control and
Yeah.
energy manipulation and who you might think is God might really be the devil.
right,
That's not a popular topic. But
And-
like, I want to eat the steak, but I really don't want you to tell me how you slaughtered the cow to do it.
right.
But
Exactly.
it's like, if you think about it, is what we were grown up taught. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we're kids, everything's practically sugar coated. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when we grow up with that mentality for so long, and we reach like a certain level where we think we're comfortable enough to accept what's outside of that reality, is like, it's mind blowing for us.
Yeah, I mean, because we grow up in a lie. Like, from 0 to 6, you're pretty much just in a delta state, just downloading information. And all the stuff you're downloading is predominantly Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny,
Right.
things like that. So we're really born into a matrix of lies and a web of deceit. Okay, and people
Right.
oftentimes don't really break out of that until later on. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So even it's at a subconscious level, to where you don't really notice it, but you're going shopping on Christmas and you're hanging up Santa Claus ornaments in your house. You don't really notice it because it's been ingrained in your psyche at a subconscious level. So we
That's
just go
actually-
through life.
Yeah, that's true. Because like when you don't have kids, you're still putting up Santa Claus and everything. Like, who's that for?
Yeah, yeah. And then what's crazy is that you might even realize the lie
Yeah.
and still do it anyway.
And still do it because your mannerisms, you're so used to that. That's
Yeah.
what you're accustomed to.
And see, when people like me and others, when we bring this information, people are uncomfortable because it forces them to choose.
Right.
You know
It
what I
messes
mean?
with their comfort state.
Yeah.
But they don't have to. But I think the thing is, they don't have to choose. It just they think they have to, right?
Well, no, you have to choose.
Do you have to?
Yeah. When in issues like this,
Yeah.
you would have to choose if you know the truth. If you know who is really on your side and who's not,
I mean, but what I mean is, it doesn't change anything about how you live your life. It's not going to change who you are to know the truth.
Oh yeah, definitely it will. Yeah, there'll be things that you won't no longer do.
You think so?
Yeah, definitely. There'll be patterns that you will naturally lose.
I have to say, I've because I've actually experienced that myself. Because
Yeah.
I grew up basically. My mom was a Jehovah's Witness. My dad actually went to a church. I forget which kind, but he went to a church, and we split. Going to Kingdom Hall in church, but I still grew up with that same belief in a weird way. I believe in spiritual.
And a lot of, believe it or not, on my channel, because I do have a YouTube channel. This would be a good time to plug my YouTube channel.
We were going to plug it
channel.
at the end, but go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, oops. But, yeah, my YouTube channel is Infinite Blessings, and on my channel I have a video titled "Who is Yahweh? What is the Demiurge?" It's got a lot of views, like up to like 80,000 now, and most of my viewers on that video are ex Jehovah's Witnesses,
Right.
because the Jehovah, the Yahweh, is what really just catches their attention.
Right.
When they see who is Jehovah, who is Yahweh, and they say, what is this video about? And then I go in and I talk about, where did it come from, even going back to Solomon. Because a lot of people don't know that Solomon was into the occult too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Solomon,
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
deep into the occult.
This is news to me.
Yeah,
You
Solomon,
knew that. I knew that.
yeah,
I
he
knew
was
that.
deep into the black arts. There was a book called The Tree of Life by Israel Regardie.
Yeah.
And in the book, it talks about how Solomon worshipped a legion of demons, 70 to 72 demons.
Mm.
And in this legion, it lists the different demons. In this legion was a demon named Aldabaoth, who also goes by the name Yahweh or Jehovah.
But then now you have to be more specific when you say, because when you say deep, I know what you're talking about. When you say demon, that's not like what everybody thinks demon of as a demon.
Right, a demon or a daemon People interpret that as it could be a negative. It could be a neutral,
Right.
or it could be a positive, depending upon your. But me, I'm referring to it in the negative,
Right.
as an entity that will give you something, but will also ask for something else in the back end.
Which is what I've always grown up believing. What is related to the term demon.
Well, most people
Just a parasitic entity. By nature, a parasitic entity by nature. Not saying that it might dislike you on a personal level, but just in terms of survival and manipulation, it's to its advantage to deceive you. Okay, we're talking about entities that, at their core nature, are against you naturally because of their own willingness to survive.
It's like Loki. That's what it's like.
Oh, Loki, like from Marvel.
Yeah, it's like that.
I can see that. Loki on my back.
All right, so I am going to say this: we are out of time.
I have so much to talk about too.
Somebody's calling me. I don't know who this is. Every time you say the demiurge, I keep thinking like that sounds like a Parliament and Funkadelic song.
You might want to go back and re-listen to it.
I know, right? Yo, they be talking some stuff like that in the Funkadelic albums. Yeah. They be talking about stuff like that.
The Muse.
Yeah, they talk about this. So I can just hear George Clinton talk about like the demiurge coming at you.
Thanks again for having me on the podcast.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Really, I did learn a lot from this podcast.
Thanks a lot for having me on, and you guys just keep doing what you're doing, man. And I'm just gonna keep doing what I do, just putting this information out there. Trying not to scare too many people in the process, but it's truth. It is what it is. You know what I mean? But if you want to reach me, you can just reach me on. You can just email me at elevateinconsciousness@gmail.com. That's elevateinconsciousness@gmail.com. Excuse me, or you can just send me a direct message, man, through YouTube at Infinite Blessings on YouTube, and just check out my videos. I got about 20 to 30 videos on there, from everything from time, space, what is the Matrix, who is Yahweh, what is the Demiurge, the Sims, reality, all kinds of different stuff.
Don't forget to pick up a copy.
I'll load your boat with information, I guarantee it.
And don't forget to pick up a copy of The Gnosis of a God.
Yeah, definitely go and pick up a copy of Gnosis of a God. It's on Amazon, Books A Million, any popular bookstore, retailer.
Yeah.
You can pick it up. So
join us in being woke. Join the rebellion.
All right, so this has been a very special episode of Shoot the Shit. Next week. I was just going to say next week.
Shoot the shit.
Nobody likes saying shit.
Because after I found out what it was.
Because he had been saying shit the whole time.
I don't know why.
He just found out that it was shit.
Yeah, so I just got to, I got to correct myself.
Anyway, so next time we'll probably be back to talking about goofy stuff and movies. Stuff like that.
Once again, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for
Thanks for coming on.
All right.
Mr. Will Lee, everybody.
All right. Applause.